Hello and welcome to Trekkie and Beyond, a Star Trek podcast. I'm Monica.
And I'm Andrea, and welcome to episode 12, Through the Valley of the Shadows. This episode takes place a little bit after episode 11. I'm thinking maybe a couple weeks have passed, and the USS Discovery, they now see a fourth signal in a new world, and Pike, when he goes there, is forced to make a very tough decision and a very emotional decision. While Burnham and Spock investigate a Section 31 ship that's gone missing. So let's get into it. What was your initial reaction about this episode?
I am so happy that finally I get closure for two important aspects of this journey I've been waiting for.
Okay.
Reno is back.
Yes.
With a snap. And so like she wasn't just like in the back scene like it as an extra. She had some really good points in it. So I'm looking forward to talking about that. And I have to admit, a few episodes ago, in the Point of Light discussion, I went on a rant about the Son of None's baby, so Bulk and L'Rell's baby. And so now I have closure because he's back in this episode. So the Son of None is all grown up, and so we get to learn more about him. So I'm excited about those two things. What about you?
I did not hate this episode. I'm really happy. There were some great decisions and there were some very stupid decisions in this episode. And then I liked that there, with Pike, there is I don't know if I believe everything that happened with Pike. So there's a little bit of more intrigue and wonder. And then also Jet is back, and Jet is back with a vengeance. And I love Jet. Yeah, I love her. I love that character, and I hope that she stays around a little bit longer than just one episode. So let's get into this episode and discuss some of our favorite points and things that really sort of stood out to us. So the opening scene, we see Michael is talking to her adoptive mom, Amanda. And I was like, oh, this is a very interesting little tete-a-tete thing, because you have your birth mom, you have your adoptive mom, and you sort of gave all your love to the adopted mom because you believed your real mom, biological mom, was gone, and now your biological mom's back, but she's gone again. But I think Amanda handled it in a very, very good manner, and she didn't act in a sort of a jealous manner, which makes me think Amanda is such a great mom. Doesn't always make the best decisions, but she does love her kids, and how she basically was just like, she's still your mom, and don't view this as a bad thing. This is a good thing. This is a thing you can heal from. And it was nice to also see Spock talk to his mom and see the mom see her kids together, working together as fun. What did you think about that part?
Yes, I think that also helps put a little bit of closure to the rift that Amanda saw the last time Michael and Spock were together. So the last time she saw them, Michael was not really I don't know, supportive of her brother, and Michael's always confused in a roller coaster ride. So it's nice to I can see as a proud moment, after two kids fight, that, oh look, they're brother and sister again, everything's well in the world. It was a little awkward to start, but I think it showed a connection and a progress forward.
Definitely agree. And so the episode after that sort of goes to the opening scene, credits and all that stuff. And so then we go to basically the beginning of the episode, and Discovery is in orbit around Boreth, which is the planet that Ash, Tyler, left his and L'Rell's son because he couldn't raise him himself. And this, I will say, this is very interesting because when the signal was there, Michael does her first dumb decision, and I'm just in this episode of, actually, I want to say this might be her. No, she made more than one dumb decision this episode. Never mind. But this is the beginning of her first dumb statement. Thank you for correcting me with your face. Of saying the signals don't matter, and it's like, no, chick, they do matter. You're just upset, and I don't understand what is her issue with just admitting she's emotional, because she's basically stating that, these signals don't matter because she thought they came from the Red Angel. Now she knows the Red Angel didn't send them. The Red Angel's her mother and her mom's gone. her fault, by the way. I'm so sorry, Michael. I love you, but this one was your fault. And she's like, they don't, why are we even looking for the signals anymore? Like, honey, you don't get to sit there and negate actual fact, because these are real reasons. Like, these are real things that are happening, just because they're not going to lead you to your mom. You want to go after Leland, you want to have to go Section 31, and you can't get revenge on him. And I just want to say, sort of your fault why your mom can't come back. Yes. I'm sorry, but it's not really Leland's fault. I mean, Control Leland's fault. It is, but if you had just let your mom leave when she wanted to, he would have never had a chance to destroy her suit. I'm sorry, I have to say it. So you're just basically taking it out on your job, and you need to stop that. Right.
And she's not a captain. She's not a key decision maker. So slow your roll, Michael. Let Pike, the captain, do his thing and make these decisions, because you're not good at making these types of decisions. And Spock even told you that.
Yes. Because it is, every time she's emotional but tries to leave her emotion out of logic, she's making an emotional decision, and it's never a good one. And I just need her to break, I need to break her out of that. We're waiting on it. Hopefully it'll happen soon.
It shows her immaturity when she does these types of things.
Especially her emotional immaturity, because I feel like instead of like processing her emotions, she blocked them. And now that everything's coming to the surface, she doesn't know how to handle it. So it shows really how emotionally immature she is. But you also see that Tyler admits to Michael that his son is there, or Volk's and L'Rell's son is there. Not his biologically, but like his emotionally and mentally, which is such a gray area, but he's there. And they have like a little moment, which I thought was totally forced and didn't need to happen. Did you think that hug was needed?
No, I actually thought that maybe she was going to be mad because he didn't share this information with her, but I understand why he did not, because this is top secret. But I know that sometimes Michael can overreact, and I wasn't sure how she was going to react to this part.
You're definitely right. Yeah, I agree. I didn't know how she was going to act too, which is why I felt like that scene was a little bit forced. I was like, did that? Okay, we didn't really need to see all of that. It wasn't a lot, but still too much for me. Again, people, I'm dead inside. I'm sorry. So we see L'Rell comes to Discovery, and Tyler goes to see her, and they have like a little bit of a heated argument. And I have to admit, this is where Tyler was about to make the dumb decision of the day, because he was like, I'm going to go down to Boreth and talk to them. And L'Rell's like, you're supposed to be dead. How are you going to go to a Klingon site to talk to other Klingons when you're supposed to be dead? I didn't tell people you were dead and just couldn't find your body. I showed them a fake head.
Right.
Tyler, what were you thinking? Like, why would you even think that's a good idea?
I was also thinking, because I could see Pike in the middle of the two of them looking back and forth, thinking, there's a lot more to this. I know I didn't know Ash's full story, but this is a whole lot of Jerry Springer going on. But I was thinking, why don't they have this conversation outside, like in another room, and then come back with a solution?
Oh, she did want that. L'Rell did want to do that. Yeah. I think Pike said no.
Yeah. I just thought it was just a little, well, because also this was their secret mission, and Control is running rampant. How do they know really that either Pike would keep this a secret, and then also like if Control is listening, or if Control is inside of Pike? Like, how do you know any of this? And Ash, you were just involved in this. How do we even know this is Ash, the true Ash?
Because he's making a dumb decision. That's how we know it's the true Ash.
Right, the last time we saw Ash, he was like stabbed in his stomach, and so like, and then
that's why I said, like, I think at least a couple weeks have passed between last episode and this episode. It doesn't tell us exactly how much time, but that's why I'm like, I think a couple weeks have passed.
Right.
Because I was like, yeah, you're healed pretty quickly, dude. And we don't see Georgiou because she's searching for Leland. So that's why I'm like, okay, I think it's been a couple weeks since last episode and this episode. But L'Rell tells them that the time crystals are kept down there in Boreth, at that, like, their sanctuary, and they're the timekeepers. And Pike's like, well, I'll go and down there. And L'Rell's like, okay, you can go, but understand I have no sway with them. I can set up a meeting, but they don't answer to me. So, like, go at your own risk. Which I thought was sort of a nice little interesting, I felt like it was like her version of a warning. Like, they don't answer to me. I can't offer you protection when you're down there. So what happens. And Pike decides he's still gonna go. And so he gets down there and we meet this Klingon, and we don't know at first who he is. It's an older Klingon, definitely an older Klingon. Like, he looks almost older than Pike by the way that he looks.
Right.
At least by Klingon standards, because he also has white hair. And Pike explains why he's there and why he needs a time crystal and all the information. And they're like, no, many people have come with saying they had a pure heart, but they always leave broken and dejected. We're not going to trust you. And Pike basically, talks his way through, proves that he's a good person. And he ends up finding out that the person that he's talking to is actually Tyler and L'Rell's son, who's a grown-up. And he's like, how? Your father left you here as a baby months ago. And we find out that time there moves differently for people who are timekeepers. And so I think that's very interesting. Like, did he, like, it's like, I know by our understanding, he had an accelerated growth rate, but did he experience all those years in his own way? Because it's like, he says time moves differently there. So it's like, does it move slower while he's there? And so he was able to grow up. Like, a few months there is really like a few years, or a lot of years, apparently, because we see a tree grow from infancy from a sapling to a full grown tree. But it's that was very interesting, because he talks like he's more than a few months old. He talks like he has years and years of experience,
right?
But he's only a couple months old. Right. So, like, how does time move there?
And keep in mind too, Michael Burnham's mom had the time crystal, and she didn't seem to age a lot. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. This is the big mystery with this time crystal and this red angel, how this all unfolds. It's just, what a coincidence.
Yeah.
That the baby that they gave up happens to grow up. I don't think Ash knew that the time crystals were located there.
No, he definitely didn't know. I think L'Rell knew. Look, yeah, L'Rell did know, because she's the one who talked about time crystals. Duh, Andrea. Right.
But that this would come full circle as much as it has.
Because I was expecting we see a little toddler baby down there, like little all that stuff, and it was like, oh, you're a full-grown man. Hello. I wasn't expecting to see you.
But it is also nice to see that he did not end up like crazy, like without his parents. Like, yes. The monastery raised him well. He seemed to be like,
their
I don't
leader,
know, seems to be, yeah.
Yeah, he seems to be like their leader.
Right. Because you never know with an orphanage, or, when you're dropping off a kid at someone's doorstep, what's going to happen. So at least it worked out well for the child.
And then we also see Pike, Tevek, or Tenavik, Tenavik, because I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, takes Pike to basically where the time crystals are. He's basically going to test Pike to see if he's worthy enough to leave with the time crystal. And the future that he shows Pike, he's like, Pike is on a it's not the Discovery, but he's on some ship. It could be the Enterprise, or it could be another ship. And their reactor is basically about to blow up. And Pike basically almost sacrifices himself so his crew members can live. And then we see Pike is basically comatose in like one of their versions of like a wheelchair. And our Pike has like a little bit of a mental breakdown, like for a split second. He's like, oh my God, what did I see? He's like, that's your, and he's told that's his future. And that's where I feel like might be a lie. I feel like that's a test. So they show him a horrible future and say that if you take it, that horrible future is what's set in stone for you, to see if they're like, okay, well, I'm not going to take it because I don't want that future. And Pike has to like rationalize, this is bigger than him. He has to, if he doesn't do this, the entire universe dies. But in that future, he's alive. So it must mean, and he's wearing like an admiral coat, I think, or something like that. So it's like, it must mean that he was able to stop control. He's like, this is bigger than him. So he takes the crystal and sees that future of himself being in a comatose basically, and accepts that. And so that makes me wonder, back to when he says, well, many people come thinking that they are pure of heart and leave broken. I wonder if that was like a test, and the timekeeper just never told him it was a test, to see if he was willing to risk an awful future to save the world.
I agree with you. I think that was a test. I think that many people failed previously, and could not then leave with the time crystal. And I don't know what happened, because once someone finds out about that, that's like, I don't know, that's a huge change. And I'm surprised more people didn't go to that area. But that scene where they showed him in a comatose state, that is connected to the original series. And I only know this because I like Googled it, looked it up. So a few episodes ago, they like showed some flashbacks to an earlier scene in the original series. This is also a connection. So now, though, Pike knows that could be his destiny. That will be his destiny, but he's deciding to pursue it anyway, knowing that, and he's a good Starfleet soldier to persist, even knowing that no matter what they do with time, this is still going to be an outcome.
So I hope it's a test and they change his outcome, because I don't want that for Pike. Even in the movies, he doesn't have the best outcome anyway, but like, I just sort of hope that's not his outcome. I love Pike, but I'm gonna hope they change it. That's my hope. So then we see that Pike does get the time stone and he goes back to the Enterprise. And so that's like his storyline in this episode. And I liked it. I liked having a Pike-centric storyline. Did you?
Yes. And I'm looking forward to more about Pike with his own spin-off series.
Strange New Worlds.
Yes.
And then the other, we'll talk about Michael's storyline in the second half of this episode, but the other part of this episode that's amazing is Jet's storyline in this episode, and how she's a meddler. And I love how she meddled in this episode. So we see a scene between Dittner, Nielsen, Stamets, Linus, and I'm so sorry, I cannot pronounce the Black actress's character's name.
Joanne,
her first name, because I cannot pronounce the last name. I do apologize, people. They're sitting there having lunch, and Stamets Paul is looking very glum and sad and just unhappy. And then Jet comes to the table and she's like, dude, we just did a spore jump. Why aren't you excited? Why aren't you happy? And I want to be like, where have you been, Jet? And she's like, look, we're about to have a raw time crystal, get your espresso in. We have a lot of work to do. And then we see Hugh walk in, and Paul is like working harder, and everyone at the table is just like, oh, sad. And Jet, being Jet's like, you're not over that yet? Didn't he like move out months ago? What's going on? And I'm like, Jet. I busted out laughing at that part. I had to pause because I was laughing so hard at like how matter of fact she was about like, he moved out. I'm like, what's going on? And I'm like, Jet, it's not that simple. It's not that simple. Like, I understand why he moved out, and I respect why he moved out, but Paul is still allowed to be sad about it. Let him, like, he already mourned him, got him back, and lost him again. He's allowed to be a little sad. And then it's not even that Hugh went to a different ship.
Yeah.
He's still on the ship.
Yeah. And I liked Paul's response, eat your protein. Like try like changing the subject because you don't want to spill your beans about your ex in the cafeteria with your coworkers.
Yes.
So what really was he, what kind of how could he possibly like react to that to like move on?
And like, what can he even
change
say?
the subject?
Like, what can he even say? That's not has not already been said. Because Jet, if you've been in these episodes consistently, you will know everything that's going on, but you haven't been, and I'm upset about that. But don't hurt Paul. I still have hope for Paul and Hugh, but they need to heal individually before they can come back together. But Jet, being the amazing meddler that she is, goes to sickbay with a finger up and is like, I need medical attention. And Hugh comes over, and I have to say, she had a hangnail. Like, she didn't even like cut herself. She had a hangnail and went to medical attention to get Hugh to come over. And she was like, I have an issue. She tried to do like a little rhyme and said it with the doctor whose name rhymes with poo. And she's like, yeah, I'm an engineer and not a poet. And he was just sort of like going along with it. And then we find out that Jet is married. And the two of them sort of bond over how over the top their partners are, which is very interesting because in the very first season, the way Hugh took care of Paul, I thought Hugh was the one who was more over the top. But like him coming back, or like he at least matched Paul's energy of being like over the top. And coming back, he doesn't match Paul's energy as like being that over the top energy, high energy person. Because in the beginning, in the first season, I felt like they matched each other's energy pretty well. Like they were both high energy. And I didn't realize it, or it really didn't hit me until Jet was like, sort of, when they were almost sort of making fun of how neurotic both of their partners were. And I was like, but weren't you a little neurotic in the first season? Am I not remembering that correctly?
Oh yeah, and I thought that Hugh outwardly disagreed with Lorca.
Yeah.
And was very defensive of that. I also appreciated the fact that Jet opened up about the loss of her love, of her wife. And I think that made Hugh realize something. And that something is that Paul is still alive. And at least they have time with each other. This could be far worse, right? So...
And yeah, and so, but she also warns him. Yeah. She was like, you have a second chance, right, but that's not going to last forever. Because once Paul moves on, who's to say he wants to open up again? So it's like, I understand you need to heal. And I want you to understand you were given the second chance that no one else ever gets. But that doesn't mean the second chance is going to last. And Paul's going to wait for you until you're ready.
Right. Because
or he's not going to be there when you're ready.
Right. Paul's accepted a position at the Vulcan Science Academy. He's ready to leave once this issue is worked out. So he can move on and they're just not even on the same ship anymore. You know? Yeah.
So I think that was a great fun thing for him, but also a warning for him to realize you're going to lose him if you don't do you still want him? Like, figure that out. Because if you do, y'all need to work this out, because this is not going to work out. Paul's not going to be waiting in the wings forever.
Right.
And if you don't, let him go. Don't make sure he has no hope that you two will ever get back together. And I think that's a good come to Jesus moment for them, because I think Hugh needs that, because even though I fully support him figuring out who he is before they get back together, he needs to let Paul know that he eventually wants to get back together, and not we'll see what happens when I get myself together.
Right.
Because there's a difference of allowing someone to come to terms with a big life-altering decision or life-altering change on their own, instead of forcing them to go through it with you. But you also have to let them know, like, look, I want this to work, but I need to work through this real quick. So please, I promise you, I'm coming back to you. Just let me work through this, or don't wait for me because I don't know. And I feel like Hugh did the first part of letting Paul know that he needs to work through something, but I don't think he ever let Paul know, is there a maybe? I think we're hoping that there's a maybe. So while Pike is down on breath, Ash points out that a Section 31 ship was late in checking in. And that's not heard of for Section 31 ships. They have to check in, I think, every hour on the hour, or basically whenever they have to check in, you're not late. You're never late, ever. But when the ship did check in, they stated that they were late because they were in a, where they could not send a signal, that because it wasn't safe or something like that. And so Michael makes the decision to go and search because it's totally logical for her, who has the most emotionally invested, she's the most emotionally invested person in the outcome of this, because she's looking for Leland to go to a Section 31 ship by herself. And Saru allows her to go. And it's like, she thought she would have to, she said, like, I really think I thought I had to do more of like a convincing. And he's like, ever since my change, I'm a different type of captain now, almost like.
Yeah, he's taking more risks. He's not afraid as much before. But I'm surprised. I would think Saru would want to send a security chief with her, someone else, because we just went through, what was it, project? Yes, on at the command headquarters, in which she could not make a decision to eject Arium. So why are you sending her
alone? Like,
right.
Come on. Like, you all know she's lying when she's saying this isn't an emotional decision. You all know she's lying, and you're enabling this. You're enabling this. Hi. Join Starfleet and we'll enable bad emotional decisions. But I love to see that as she's like packing up to go, Spock comes and she's like, I don't need you to come with me. And he's like, let's go, sister. I love how he's like playing the annoying little brother to her. Like, right. Whatever, let's go, sister. She's like, you're not needed, brother.
But sometimes, actually all the time, he's much more mature. So
he really is.
He's the more mature younger brother. It's weird.
Because I feel like that's because he's really able to separate logic and emotion. Like, he's able to feel his emotions, and like, he doesn't view feeling his emotions as a negative so much as she does. I think that's their difference, is that she tries to shut off her emotions, and then all of her actions are the result of her emotions. And Spock is able to combine the two in a little bit more of a healthy manner. And it's weird because he's only half human. He's only half human, and she's full human. But I think it's because she tried to be Vulcan so much, she never really understood how to use her emotions when she was going through the time when we learn, you know? So I think that's why, because he likes his emotions and she's trying to shut them off. And I feel like that's why he's always making the better decisions than she is. Which, again, I need her to work her way through this, because I do love Michael. I love her, but I want better for her, and I need better for her. And the only way she's going to do it is if she works at it and stops making dumb emotional decisions. Anyway, so as they're having sort of a conversation, and Spock sort of says, oh, so you're angry. And she's like, I'm not angry. I'm enraged about basically everything that's going on, and how everything they thought was wrong. And Spock is like, well, rage is the enemy of logic, basically saying you can't really, well, I took it as you can't really be doing something logical if you're enraged. You're not thinking correctly if you're letting your emotions run you. And I think that was a good call out, because like we just said, she tends to act on emotion and says it's logic, but she's not actually using her logic. And then she always makes the wrong decision when she acts emotionally.
Yep.
Did you have any thought about their drive together, their little road trip to the Section 31 ship?
I'm glad that he volunteered for that mission to assist. Once again, I think there should have been more people with them, especially if you're going to check out a Section 31 ship. It should have been more than just the two. And Tilly was not in this episode, but
oh my God.
Right. So maybe like Tilly, maybe like someone else just to like, because
she wasn't in this episode. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah. And when I watched the credits, I was like, I don't remember seeing Tilly. And I watched the credits much more slowly. I was like, yeah, she wasn't here. But there, her, maybe security chief, just several other people. Because
this was, sorry, go ahead.
Because later on, we definitely need more eyes on what's going on.
And this would have been the one that Ash should have gone with her because he's Section 31.
Yeah.
Ash should have came with them because if anyone wanted to question why they were coming after a Section 31 ship, he could have been like, look, I was with the Discovery. I need, like, Ash should have, and I understand that he wanted to understand what was going on with his son, but at the same time, you really, if anything went wrong and you were boarded by a Klingon ship, you know, the Klingon ship that Laurel came on, you know, the one where you're supposed to be dead, maybe you shouldn't be on Discovery at this moment with her.
Right.
Because who's to say who might randomly show up? I was really expecting someone to find out that he was still alive in this episode. Like, I really was. My heart was on fire about that. So I was like, why didn't Ash go with Michael and Spock? Definitely believe Spock still should have went because I feel like he's the only one who's able to get through Michael and call her out on the fact that you are being emotional. You say you're not, but you are. I don't want to say it like she's not allowed to have emotions, but when she's using her emotions instead of logic, he's the only one who's able to truly call her out on it. Because I do believe she should be able to show emotions, like they all should, but not let emotions dictate her decisions.
I agree with you. Ash would have been a really good call to bring along on this mission for Section 31 because he's the liaison for Discovery. And then also Ambassador Cromwell, because the only person that can really put Section 31 in check would be Admiral Cornwell. The only people have to be like higher up in the chain. And I think like 4 admirals for Section 31 died. So you need like another admiral to help endorse this mission or help, like, I don't know, sign off. Whew. Well, plot thickens.
Yes. And so we see that Spock and Michael arrive to where the Section 31 ship is, or the missing-ish Section 31 ship is, and it's just a sea of frozen bodies, and I was horrified. That's like one of the worst ways to die, in my opinion, because like you freeze rapidly, but at the same time, is it fast enough? Like to know you're being sucked out of the entire Section 31 ship crew is outside in space, floating around the ship. And so Spock and Michael do, they search for life forms and they're able to find one body in the EVA suit. And they bring him on, or they bring the person on, and Michael recognizes it as someone named someone named Gant, who she worked with or served with on the Shinzo. So it was nice to see someone from the original, another person who survived from the Shinzo, because there were so few and far between that someone else survived. And because he was basically trying to block out control, and he was basically trying to block control out of the ship, and control realized what he was doing and vented everyone out of the ship. And he was able to get into an EV suit before he was like pushed out too, which was strike number 1. But we're getting into that a little bit later.
Well, also, they did not send a message back to Discovery to tell them that, first of all, the whole
people is what we call strike number 2.
Right, ejected out into space. Like, hello, at least get that information out.
Yes. Yes. I'm sorry. Are you speaking logic right now? I think you're speaking logic right now, Monica. Because that would have been my first thing I sent back. Oh, Discovery, we have arrived at the location of the missing Section 31 ship. There are hella bodies out here in space. I mean, like all of them. I mean, oh my God, every single person from this ship is out in space. If something happens to us, send help.
Right. Send help now. Reinforcement. Something went down over here. I don't know what.
And then, oh, look, we have found a person named Gant. He was in the Shinzo with Michael. He said that when everyone else was vented out of the ship, he was able to get into an environmental suit. How was he able to get into an environmental suit when you said everyone was kicked out? But that's a question for later. So they realize that they have to go onto the Section 31 ship to figure out what happened and why it killed the entire crew. Which in my opinion, just blow up the ship. Or like call Starfleet, like, hey, we found the ship. This entire crew's dead. Right. What you want us to do with the ship?
Right.
But don't board it without calling back to Discovery to say what happens. Because you know what happens when they get on the ship? The ship goes to warp. It goes to warp. And where are you going in this ship? And does Discovery know where you are? What's that old thing? It's 8 p.m. Do you know where your children are? Like, hey, Discovery, do you know where your crew members are? And when it went to warp, because at first I didn't really think about, the first time I watched it, I didn't really think about, oh, they didn't call back to Discovery until they went to warp. And I was like, does anyone know where they are? Does anyone know that they left the ship right now? I don't think so. Not smart. And when they get on the ship, they realize that they have to sort of block out control in a scientific map. They basically have to go to the computer room, hold the cage door open, and like manually reboot the core to basically block out control from the ship. So Spock decides he's gonna go. And so Michael is talking to Gant back on the Section 31 ship, and she's asking, well, how did you end up here? And he was like, after the Battle of the Binary Stars, I had doubts, and Section 31, they had their threat assessment thing, and to make sure that another war would never break out. And I'm like, okay, that's a good idea. He's like, they wanted to figure out all the threat assessments and figure out how to stop a war from it ever beginning. And they had, now here's where he's messed, here's issue number 3, because instead of saying, I thought that control would have been a good thing, but it turns out it was wrong, or I was wrong for believing that. But instead he was like, but with control, it was possible. And then she sort of like, Michael had this little, what moment? What did he say?
Right. And he said something about a way to guarantee a safer future.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I've heard that before. I'm not exactly sure where I heard that. I don't know if Leland had said it, but Leland under control or someone else. But I was like, that's a little, how do you know it's going to be a safer future? That's a little sketchy.
And then we see Spock at the same time while he's in the cage room, realize he's like, search for control. And like one member of control is found in the ship. And he realizes that Gant, at the same time that Michael realizes that Gant is infected with biocontrol. And so as Michael tries to quickly go to her phaser, quickly but slowly go to her phaser, Gant's like, if you go there, I'll be across the room and I'll break your metatarsal bones, or metacarpal bones? Something bones. I can't remember which one it is in your hands. And like, I'll break your hand basically before you even grab the phaser. And Spock is trying to get to Michael, trying to talk to Michael, and he can't get anything out to her. And Michael's trying to explain what's going on. And Gant basically says Control wants her. In a very roundabout way, Control wants to control her.
Right.
And Spock, we see a little bit of strength of him like pushing those doors open to get to his sister to save her. is able to send a message over the PA system that Gant is controlled, and it's enough time for Gant to be able to get distracted where Michael can grab her phaser and start firing at him. And Gant gets Michael on the floor and he has a syringe and he's about to inject her. And I'm like, no. And then Spock comes in and tries to do the Vulcan nerve pinch. And it don't go so well. Because Gant doesn't have any nerves right now.
Right.
And my baby gets injured. I'm sorry about that. Like that was tough to watch. And then we see that he's basically trying to find a way to stop him while Michael is like firing away at Gant over and over and over and over again. And we see the nanobots are like, Gant died with everyone else, but we reanimated him to use him, but now we want you. And she's firing away at these nanobots and they just keep bringing Gant back together over and over and over again until they leave him creepily, almost like Terminator, and start going across the floor. And Michael's like up against the wall. She's I just want to say, I was laughing at how she was holding the phaser. And she was holding both of them like gangster style, like shooting. No, I need to kill you. I need to kill you.
Well, I was thinking, get up and run.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, Michael.
It was.
But Gant was tossing her around that, I don't know, that bridge area. So
Earlier, yeah, she might be a little
that
tired.
that was a lot of fighting, and maybe she got injured or something. But
and those suits probably are heavy.
Yeah.
So what did you think about the fight scene?
I'm so glad Spock once again. Oh my goodness, Spock saved the day. If he was not on that mission, Michael would be part of Control, and who knows where else this would go. And Spock like quickly, I think, reprogrammed something so that it demagnetized the flooring. So that
it magnetized the flooring.
Magnetized the flooring. Okay. So
the nanobots got stuck.
Yeah.
Wouldn't their EVA suits be stuck too? I was wondering that, but neither here nor there.
Oh.
I was like, wouldn't they be stuck as well? But I was like, I'm not going to open that plot hole, but I just did.
This is another reason why whenever you're like going hiking or somewhere, you should always tell someone that where you're going. And because something dangerously could go wrong. And it did in this case. They were just very trusting of Gant. And I'm disappointed at Michael and like she's definitely not ready to be a captain.
Not yet.
She just makes all of these little mistakes. This is crazy. What else did you think about that section? That scene?
I thought that Michael needs to do a little bit more hand-to-hand combat training. Because I feel like every time she's in and I should say hand-to-hand combat training, because she can fight. We've seen that she can fight, but whenever it's like her life is, I don't know. It just seems like there are some episodes where she can fight and hold her own, and then there are episodes where she gets wrecked. And like it's either she can fight or she can't.
Got it.
So I don't know. It's not consistent in my opinion about how she, like, what's her level of hand-to-hand combat training? Because I feel like with Ariam, it looked like she could fight, but with Gant, it didn't look as that she could fight as well. Or as well as she did when she fought Ariam. So I don't know what. And today, both times she was wearing the EVA suit. So
yeah, and that actually reminds me of another thing that I noticed with Control and Gant is that Control seems to be much more comfortable in human skin.
Yes,
over time, it's getting much better.
Yes.
Like when Control entered in the Leland, it was kind of stiff. You could tell that it wasn't exactly him. Now I don't remember Gant's characteristics and his reactions and things like that, but he seemed normal.
Yep. No, you're right. You're definitely right. Like with Leland, Control was too mission oriented to really understand the human dynamics of the fact that because like I said, like a Control said, Leland has a tendency of making the hard choices and being like making those choices that could end someone's life, but there's a human way of doing that. And Leland, while is a awful person personally, he always put Starfleet first. And so I think Control didn't really understand that. And so now with Gant, he's had a better chance to study. Well, hopefully he studied, not hopefully, probably he studied other people on Section 31. But it also goes to show how much people on Leland's ship is under Control's control before he got to Leland. Because when Control took over when Control took over Gant was already dead. So who was he studying to understand the mannerisms,
Right.
So that must mean he already knew the mannerisms from other people than Leland, because I don't think he was human enough with Leland to be human enough with Gant. So even though we only know that it's Leland and Gant right now, who's to say that Control hasn't had a chance to take over other humans on the Section 31 ship that Leland left on, to understand how other humans interact with each other before he took over Gant.
Yes. And also during like Gant's confession, he mentioned that they thought that they selected Michael because Michael would have access to the Spear data. And it made me seem as though that Control was listening to Michael's personal logs or something, because they seemed to like know more about her decisions fairly recently in this process. And then I was thinking, oh my goodness, I wonder if Control is still on Discovery. But otherwise, how would they know about what happened post Leland, and how she was reacting to this? So it's, who knows how far Control has spread. And that's
we're about to find out in the next scene, though, because that's actually very interesting. Because actually, no, we don't find out, because who's to say that's the full extent of the Control? That could just be a little drop in a bucket.
Right.
So I retract my earlier statement. You're correct. We don't know how far Control went.
Right. So Section 31 ships are en route after Discovery.
Because after Michael and Spock make it back to Discovery, they explain everything that's going on. And they're saying Control had the ability to take over more bodies. And that's when the Section 31 ship comes. And another one. And another one. Until we get to that 30 Section 31. That's a really hard number to say, right off the bat to each other. 30 Section 131. Yeah. What Monica said earlier. Those ships are surrounding Discovery, and they all want the Sphere data. And Michael makes a very rash decision, in my opinion. And so I have to say something. Because the time crystal is back on Discovery, because Pike is back with the time crystal, and he does tell Laurel and Ash that he saw their son, and their son is a grown man. Their son is actually older than they are right now. We see that Pike, that their son gives Tyler back his torchbearer emblem because he needed it growing up, which again tells me those months, I feel like those were years, not months, that he and they're having a cute little thing, he has a cute little moment with himself, oh, my son he's a grown man, he doesn't need me anymore, tears. And then the 30 Section 31 ships show up. I have a question. Was Laurel still on the ship at that point? I don't think I saw her. Did she leave? Did we see her leave? Or did she's just gone?
Characters just disappear. Like Cromwell just disappear. Sorry.
No. You're right. Because I was like, wait, was she not? Don't the Klingons, shouldn't they be worried about 30 Section 31 ships?
Yeah.
Just randomly popping up? Shouldn't they be a little worried? I was like, wait, Laurel wasn't on that last scene, I don't think.
Yeah, and I can't imagine that she can pursue this undercover mission for very long. Seems like she needs to get back to cling on to her original duties before they're I don't know, they think that there's something up.
Yeah. No, agree. And so Michael makes a decision that they need to blow up Discovery to destroy the data. And I can somewhat understand that concept if the spore drive was offline, because literally you could blink to the other side of the universe. They can't get you to you that quickly. Yes, they will continue to follow you, but you can blink to the other side of the universe like that. Why not try that? And then, because one, you're going to evacuate with 30 Section 31 ships surrounding you. Who's to say they don't transport your people against their will onto their ships?
Right.
Why would you not blink away first and then evacuate and blow it up in a safe distance where they're like not there to immediately try and get the wreckage and salvage what they can?
Right. So for those that can't see me right now, the moment we started talking about this whole theory for Michael that they should destroy Discovery, I crossed my hands over my chest in closure and as a closed moment, because I feel as though this is a stupid idea, because I don't think the Sphere is going to let it happen. The Sphere would not let it delete. Like, so why would the Sphere let them do this? And the Sphere like pushed Discovery over to save itself. Like, the Sphere is not going to agree to this. Hello, folks.
And they have a time crystal on Discovery.
Yes.
Does anyone not see this? So Michael makes a point to say that once they have the time crystal, they can push. The reason they wanted the time crystal to begin with was to take the crystal to push the information in the future, like the original plan was, because they needed the power of a supernova to power the time crystal. Now, it may not be a full power of the supernova, but the spore drive and the warp drive being exploded, is that not something that could maybe power a time crystal and propel everyone within the ship somewhere else?
Plus, this decision should be above their pay grade. Like, destroying a Discovery ship, like that they should talk to like some other admirals about. Come on, Michael. Like, this is not your decision. And even Pike, I was like, really, Pike? Oh, like, you know, no. This is not how your future ends.
Like, you should have jumped away, because no matter what, no other Section 31 has a spore drive. Yes, they can warp to wherever you go, but doesn't warp take hours still? Jump to literally the other side of the universe and take those couple of hours to come up with another plan. And if they come again, jump to another part of the universe and come up with another plan. And if not, then jump to another part of the universe where no one is there and then blow up the ship. But your first option should not be boom. Right. With a time crystal on board that needs a supernova to work, and you're going to make an explosion of massive proportion. I think, hear me out, because again, remember people, I have not seen anything past like these current episodes. I think Discovery is going to get pushed somewhere in time, and they're going to be responsible for the 7 signals that Starfleet has received.
Right, because we still don't have closure, because Michael's mom said that she didn't know anything about those 7 signals.
And so I think that those 7 signals were pushed by Discovery to get certain, because one was to find Jet, like everything was to help them find more about the Red Angel. And a lot of those things, those 7 signals were centered around people of the Discovery, on the Discovery ship. So I think those signals came from someone in Discovery to make sure the loop still happened, you know? That's what I think. Because you have the time crystal on board that needs a powerful source of power to work and you're about to blow up the ship, I think they're going to get sent somewhere in time. That's my thought process. I don't know.
All I know is the show is called Star Trek Discovery. I'm expecting a Discovery ship for the length of the series. That's all. We already killed off a lot of people with the Shenzhou. Let's not do this again.
I mean, granted, they could always rebuild it and name it Discovery 2.
Yeah.
No, they wouldn't. No, they couldn't.
We also know that at some point in time, Spock and Pike returns to the Enterprise. There's 2 episodes left in the series, in the season. So guess we'll find out in the next few weeks. So this series, this episode here is also connected to 2 episodes. I think I may have mentioned them earlier in the original series, The Cage and The Menagerie. I haven't watched it, but for the listening audience, if you're interested in more about like how they're connected, I believe there's some Easter eggs here, then watch The Cage and The Menagerie in the Star Trek original series. Oh, and check out the short trek called Calypso. That one's
okay.
Yeah.
You've heard her, people. You have your marching orders.
I just think that Michael and Spock should have like destroyed DS8. Maybe they did and they just didn't tell us. But before they left and returned to Discovery, they should have destroyed that ship, especially before
the
thinking
Section
about
31 ship.
Yeah, the Section 31 ship. Thanks. They should have destroyed that before even thinking about destroying Discovery, because someone could reinstate control over there. And control could be anyone at any time, anywhere. So I guess I'm worried about all of the characters at this point. Anyone could be.
Because it seems like it takes over your memories.
Yeah.
And so if you had a safe word, they would know. So how do you protect yourself against that? Because you can always scan, because the computer was able to scan and find control on the Section 31 ship, but how do you do that every single time? So it's very interesting. Again, like I said, I like this episode. I thought this gave us I thought this was returning us to a little bit more of the Star Trek I know and love. I'm very excited for the next 2 episodes to see if I'm right, if it's because they try to blow up the ship that they get propelled somewhere else throughout time. We'll see how they solve this mystery. But as always, I'm Andrea.
And I'm Anika.
And live long and prosper.